Hello everyone, good day. In the last video of transaction acceptance ecosystem, we looked at the overall landscape of an acquiring ecosystem. In this video, we are going to specifically look into merchant back office applications and functionalities involved. In this video, we will look at what is a merchant back office system, what are the typical features and functionalities of a merchant back office system. We'll spend a little bit time on onboarding and merchant and store demographics and settlement. In this video, the word store refers to the storefront where the end transaction is being accepted. It could be an e-commerce store or it could be a physical store. The word merchant refers to the settlement entity for the stores. A single store can have a single merchant attached to it, or a group of stores can be attached to a merchant. So a merchant is more like a virtual entity, whereas the store is where the actual transaction is being performed. Now, let's look at some standard merchant hierarchies. The first one is a single store merchant, where the merchant has only one store front. The next one is a multi-store merchant, where one merchant has stores in various suburbs or various locations. In this example, the merchant has three store fronts. So this particular slide contains an example of its typical merchant chain, where the supermarket has stores in multiple cities and has about five storefronts overall in all the three cities. So each city can be treated as one single merchant, and all these merchants would report to a head office merchant. Let us look at the standard functionalities of a merchant back office system. The merchant back office system supports the merchant and store onboarding, basically the application processing of a merchant and store, and it would support the setting up of a merchant hierarchy like the ones we saw in the previous slides. In real world, there could be complex hierarchies as well. The next one is about merchant demographics. Merchant and store demographics means the name, the address, the bank information, etc. I've explained a little bit in detail in the subsequent slides. Products means the schemes that the merchant and stores would actually accept. So each merchant would be tagged to a set of schemes that one would accept. The next ones are pricing parameters, which are related to the interchange and various fees that would be levied. The merchant back office system should also support transaction processing, which means accepting the transactions from the processing switches, posting them onto the merchant and store accounts, and settling them. Terminal management is one of the important features where the terminal IDs and the number of terminals by store and by merchant are stored. The next one is about settlement. I've covered a bit of settlement also in this video. Settlement is where the actual money settlement to the merchant would happen. The next one is about statements. Similar to the customer statements that we get in the cards, in the credit cards, there are merchant statements as well. The next one is about dispute management. This is related to the schemes disputes usually that happens where uh, the back office would need to liaise with the store to retrieve the receipt and then pass it on to the issuer, etc. Finally, the back office system also supports generation of reports for various business purposes. Now let's look at merchant onboarding process. The first step in the merchant onboarding process is capture of merchant and store information. What are the details that are captured? The first one is the business type. Business type means the product or the services that are being offered, like the supermarket or furniture store, etc. Business type drives the MCC that would be attached to that particular store. MCC means merchant category code. Merchant category code is a very important field in authorizations, etc., because it tells the issuer what type of transaction is being performed. Subsequently, merchant information like demographics, the bank account information, the ownership information would be captured. In the next step, uh, the submitted details would be verified, like the address, the commercial history of the merchant, the ownership information, etc. would be performed. Additionally, AML checks like OFAC, PEP, like PEP means politically exposed people, any blacklist checks of the merchants would be performed against Match and VMAS database. Match is MasterCard's database, and VMAS is Visa's database of negative merchants where it would be performed. And additionally, acquiring bank's own risk checks would be also performed. In essence, the fraud, the identity, the credit, and the documentation verification would be performed. Uh, After successful verification, pricing agreements would be done with the merchant depending on the size of the merchant. Uh, it means that if the merchant is considerably a big chain, then the pricing parameters would be based on the volumes, etc. If not, there would be differential rates applied for smaller merchants. So the fees and the commissions would be agreed upon, and the MIDs and the TIDs would be mapped, and the transaction limits for the merchant and stores would be agreed. After that, finally, on the merchant back office system, the merchants and store would be set up. Now let's look at typical merchant and store demographics and attributes that are stored. Demographic attributes means name, address, bank account information, and the tax information of the merchant. Settlement information means the frequency of settlement. Frequency of settlement here means daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, etc. And the settlement method. Settlement method means should the money be transferred via direct debit or via settlement, etc. And settlement level means, if you recall, we saw a merchant chain with multiple cities. Should the money be settled to the local city merchant, or should it be settled with the head office? So all these are defined in the settlement attributes. The next one are the business attributes. We spoke of the MCC, and there will be transaction limits for store and also to the merchant, and some fraud controls as well. We saw the product information, that is the schemes that would be supported by the merchant or the store, and pricing parameters, primarily on the interchange, fees and charges, and the volume commissions that would be mapped to the particular merchant chain. Miscellaneous information like the number of terminals, the type of terminals, the statements frequency that is to be sent across are stored. So these are overall the merchant and store demographics that would be stored in the merchant back office system. Now let's look at a brief about settlement. How does settlement happen? So every day or within a day multiple times, the switch system would send a transaction extract to the back office system. The back office system receives the file from the switching system, which is a real-time system, and then posts the transaction to the corresponding merchant. While posting, it also computes the commissions and the fees that are to be levied on the merchant. After successfully calculating the net settlement amount, it is recorded on the merchant, and based on the settlement frequency with the merchant, the money would be dispersed to the end merchant to the bank account provided. So the merchant back office system sends a file to the settlement system. The settlement systems could be supporting various methods like the wire transfer, ACH, check, etc. So the merchant back office system actually interfaces with various systems like the switching system and accounting system, etc., to receive the transactions and also settle the end merchant. These are some of the merchant back office system differentiators. That is, a good merchant back office system provides these as well, in addition to the standard functionalities that we saw in the previous slides. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it provided a good introduction about a merchant back office system. Do like the video if you learned something new from it, and would love to see your comments as well. Thank you.